So our next speaker will complement what you heard about from Amy a moment before, because what we have on our hands is another master storyteller. So I would like to invite Kelly to the stage, who will be moderating this next session, to introduce us to our next speaker. Please welcome Kelly.
Hi, our next speaker is Tine Thygesen, who is a genius brand builder. She's lived all over the world. She's launched companies all over the world. And the overarching sort of theme that she has noticed is methods of storytelling in different cultures and how that sort of applies to the larger culture of the internet, and how you get attention and how you stand out and how to tell your story in a way that is true to you but attracts the attention of everyone.
Okay,
Tine?
thank you. Hi guys, what a great energy to start on. So how many of you guys are also entrepreneurs? How many people are either working in a startup or would like to start something? A lot, huh? That's great, that's great. And because that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about what is the reality of European entrepreneurs, such as yourself, such as myself, and how do we get all of these ideas and all of these big dreams? We are world champions in big dreams, right? There's none of you who would have used a Saturday, or Sunday, is it Sunday? Sunday, sitting here doing what other people call work, but what you call interest, if you weren't a special person, right? There's a different kind of breed in people like us. That means that we want to do stuff and we want to change things, because we have this idea that if I don't do it, no one else will, so I'll just, get the gloves on and do it myself. But it's not that easy, especially from Europe. We run up a lot in that whole, maybe if I was in Silicon Valley, this would have worked. But of course it is possible to build these streams from all over the world, and I want to talk a little bit about that today. There we are. My name is Tine, and I'm an internet entrepreneur. I've run 5 tech companies. The first I started in Australia. I've never started any of them in Silicon Valley. Normally I live in Copenhagen, up in the Nordics, so similar kind of far away from everything region, as the Balkans might feel too sometimes. I'm in internet, I'm in tech because it scales so well, and because you can build really big stuff from really small countries. And that's what people like us need, right? The reason that I, as a non-developer, became an entrepreneur, and the reason why it can work as a non-developer to build big tech companies, is because there are some things that have changed. Advertising simply doesn't work the way that it used to, right? Because we get so many messages every day. How many people feel they're influenced by the ads they see on the web? No one, right? How many people in their company are doing ads on the web or ads otherwhere? A lot, right? I do them too, right? But we stand here and we are aware that we're in this paradigm shift where all the known channels and all the ways that we use to communicate and get people's interest are not working as well as they used to. So what do we do about that? So I would say that from my experience running these 5 companies, a brand isn't an alternative. To me, it's the only alternative. It's grabbing that story and making yourself interesting enough that people want to talk about you. And I think that's possible whether you're selling canned food, or you're selling file sharing, or you're selling pizzas. We just need to find that story in it. The brand, to me, is the soul of a company. Most marketeers, or a lot of companies, especially tech companies, look at a brand as a kind of marketing. So this is advertising, right? It's really important that if a brand needs to work, that it can't be advertising. So a brand is what you stand for. The same way as the way you look isn't the true representation of who you are. It's just a part of who you are. So we need to look all the way down. So when I try to build a brand and a startup brand, I look at how do we respond to people when they write to us? What does the customer service team say? What is our email? What is the tone? What is the feel? What are the images that we use? What does it feel like? You know that marketing exercise where you have to describe your brand as what kind of car are you? There's a very big difference from being a small little speedy, maybe an English sports wagon, to being a family station wagon. All of those are good cars, and all of them are useful for some people, but they're not useful for everyone. So when we do all of that and we build all of these item ups, we learn quite quickly that we can try to control this message as much as we want. But ultimately, the brand is not what we say, it's what other people say about us. So just as Deli says, when you go to the coffee shop, try going to someone who should know your brand in your area, perhaps in your target market, and say, I could say, I come from Collego. Do you know what that is? And it's fabulous to see people's responses, and sometimes terrifying, especially if you're in marketing or a founder, because mostly what you're met with is a blank stare, like, oh, yeah, I did see it on the internet. Oh, I didn't. It's something with web, right? It's like, yeah, okay, never mind. Back to work, right? I obviously need to get back to my computer. But a brand is what other people say. So all we can do is really to facilitate that and try to do the same thing. And something that I learned is a key to that is something that went against everything we're taught as entrepreneurs. We're taught innovation and change and new and rapid and all of that. And actually the key to people knowing what you are is that you do the same all the time. Repetition. Is that all the newsletters ends with the same. It's that all the messages revolves around the right story. That we say the same thing so many times that people start listening. How many of you open all the newsletters that you get? No one, right? Sometimes you read them, right? Do you read them sometimes? Perhaps if they come in at lunchtime or at 3 o'clock when you're feeling a little bit tired. Or sometimes we read it. So that means that for me, if I have a strategy in my company to send out newsletters, I can't assume that just because I put something in once that you would have gotten it. Even if you've read it, you probably haven't read that far. So I need to say the same thing again and again and again. Then you change the context a little bit. You change a headline or something, but you always say the same. You say that we're about safety, or we're about making things easier. Repetition. And with repetition comes stories. There's an urban legend out there. I don't know if it's true, but there's an urban legend that Christmas is red because of Coca-Cola. Apparently, they say, Christmas, the primary color for Christmas used to be green. And then Coca-Cola started building all of these stories about fluffiness and polar bears and, and then Christmas slowly became red. Now in the whole world, Christmas is red and white. And what does sugared soft drink have to do with Christmas? Nothing. In the tradition in Montenegro or wherever you guys come from, some of you are from other countries, is Coca-Cola a part of the Christmas tradition? No, right? Not at all. It's like mulled wine or fireplace, or it has nothing to do with Christmas. How many recognize this as a part of the image? How many people recognize this image? Everyone recognizes this image because they've done so well. They've managed to get themselves associated with Christmas, which is one of the strongest things that happens all year, right? Christmas is family and it's presents and great thing to buy into, great thing to be associated with. Another company that's done well is this one. This is a Moleskine notebook. If anyone has a bit of a love for stationery, I'm sure I'm not the only one. It's a bit embarrassing to admit, but I do have a love for stationery. Anyone knows this brand, Moleskine. It's like really nice, and the story is these are the notebooks that Hemingway wrote in, right? And you're sitting there and it's like, oh man, and the sea, and if I write stuff in this book, it's going to be great. Fabulous, fabulous story. Everyone who's interested in stationery and everyone who buys notebooks and everyone who's interested in luxury and quality are happy to pay twice as much for the exact kind of book because I want to be connected with Hemingway. Here's just a thing. This book was launched. It was invented in 1997. How many of these did you think Hemingway have used? 0. That's impossible, right? Hemingway was dead when this product was launched. They've just created a brand association. And what they're really selling here is they're selling something that money can't buy. I learned this from a friend of mine who was running a Swiss luxury watch company. And I said, well, how do you sell that? How the hell do you manage to get someone to pay, a yearly salary for a little clock which tells the time? Exactly the same as tens of others. You already have your phone. You don't actually need to know what the time is, right? But a watch is not a watch. First of all, it's a piece of jewelry. But much more than that, a watch is a symbol of what kind of a man I am. Have you seen that ad for Philippe Patek, one of these luxury brands, which has pictures of here's a guy, a dad, obviously a good-looking dad, of course, that's what everyone aspires. He sits with his little son, they're out fishing, and he says, like, you never own a Philippe Patek, you merely look after it for the next generation. Amazing, right? So that guy didn't buy a watch, he bought a legacy. That's brilliant, right? Because then it suddenly makes sense that it cost 50,000 euros for legacy. 50,000 euros for telling the time is totally incredible, right? Who would pay that? What kind of idiot would pay 50,000 euros to tell the time? No one. Who would pay it to go into history? Everyone. When we start creating our own secret sauce in that, there's a couple of like low-level things that we do. First, we need to find our identity. We need to have some design and some words that we say all the time. And then you just repeat those again and again and again and again and do variations, but always essentially say the same. We need to go back to our values and our stories and say, what is this kind of car? Another one is, what kind of dog are you? Everyone has strong perception of what kind of dog they want to be, right? What kind of dog is your company? And then we always communicate like that. If you're a poodle, don't communicate big and scary, right? It's not, it doesn't correlate. It doesn't. I don't know if there's anyone who seriously wants their brand to be the poodle, but I mean, who am I to judge? So do that. Pick some values, pick some stories, and then always say that. In Airbnb, for example, Airbnb, it's already been mentioned a couple of times today because it's such an amazing success and it's really one of the biggest we've had in the last few years. First of all, there's nothing unique in what Airbnb does, right? I think we all realize there's been hundreds of companies doing this before Airbnb did it. They've just done it really fucking well, sorry, right? Really, really well. What they've done is that they've identified a kind of a worldview that people believe in, and then they've gone out and only spoken to these people. So what Airbnb is they don't go to people who would normally rent out places because those people are interested in something else. Maybe those people are corporate. What Airbnb does is go out and says, we are appealing to the kind of person that when you travel, you're not a tourist. You're not a tourist, you're a traveler. Who thinks traveler is cooler than tourist? A lot of people, right? It hits us right in the heart. It hits me too. It hits me too. I would much rather be a traveler. And then they just say, this is the worldview that a lot of people already have. We're not going to try a new one. The thing that I've learned in my 15 years of being an entrepreneur is you cannot change anyone's values. You cannot change anyone's opinions, and you cannot change what anyone stands for. The only thing you can do is to be really bloody clear on what you stand for and be so visible that all the people who stand for the same realize it and connect with you. We cannot change values, but we can connect with the people who believe in us already. And this is what Airbnb does. They've said that all the ones who are authentic, you know, there's a whole big group of travelers, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, who see themselves as a little bit cooler and more a good kind of travelers than the rest, because we are the ones who go to authentic neighborhoods and we eat with the locals, and who wants to go to the Eiffel Tower. And this is a worldview. It's a really strong world. I have it too. It's a really strong worldview of, oh, I don't want to eat at this famous restaurant. I want to eat at the little local one, and I want to find the little jazz place and the little wine bar because I want to do what the locals do. They're just tapping into that. They didn't create it. It was already there. Here's Tourism Australia. Tourism Australia is the most popular brand on the internet when it comes to tourism. Of course, they have pretty good material to start with. I'll give them that. But what they've been really brilliant at is letting other people tell that story. Do you know that feeling when someone comes in and then he says to you like, yeah, you know, we're doing this. We're pretty fucking good at it. I don't know how the culture is in Montenegro, but where I come from, when someone comes and tells you that they're really fucking good at something, that's not generally seen as a very nice personality trait. The contrary, right? Americans love that. It just shows confidence and self-belief that you're really the world's greatest at something. In the Nordics, that shows incredible arrogance. And that guy is probably an asshole, right? The thing is, that's a really complicated situation for us entrepreneurs because we have to show that we are better than the company you were using before, because otherwise would you switch? So how do we do that without being the asshole, and so that, our mother will still be proud when she see your picture in the paper, not the opposite? And the easiest way I've found is to let other people tell the story. If you can let other people go out and say, oh my God, this guy is the best in the world at that, do you then still think it's arrogant? Not at all, right? Not at all, because it came from someone else. It has a totally different authenticity. So if we can go in and enable other people to tell our stories, this is what content marketing is good for, right? When other people share it, like it, retweet it, it comes with their recommendation step. That's why it works. And that's what they've done so well. Very specifically, Visit Australia has done this thing that every Friday you can send in your holiday snap. Today they get a lot. In the beginning they got 1 or 2, right? In the beginning it's one of those competitions that startup also have where you are 50% of the entries yourself. You have to start there, that's okay, right? But as it gets bigger and bigger, more and more people create the content. And this one here, for example, is a real holiday shot that someone sent in. A guy diving or snorkeling with a turtle. Is that the coolest holiday picture you've seen in a long time? A lot of people thought that. It got 61,000 likes on Instagram. That's the kind of content that shares, and it didn't come from a big official source. I've spent the last few years trying to advise some of these tourism bureaus because I had a mobile travel company, and the really tough thing was I didn't know what to say to them, because there's almost nothing you can do as the official tourism bureau, because people don't want to hear it from you. People want to hear what's cool in Montenegro from people who've been to Montenegro, who live in Montenegro. But the only 5 people they don't want to hear it from is the 5 people who are employed by the Montenegrin Tourist Authority, because then it's not authentic. So we need to go around that. I think that there's only 6 things in the world that you can sell. Note that software is not among them. You can sell money, time, ego, status, sex, and security. All products in the world falls under one of these 6 categories. For example, what do you think you sell when you sell high-heeled shoes? There's a fair amount of women in this. It's not an accessory for transportation, is it? I mean, footwear is to make us walk from one place to the other without getting our feet cold. Is that the purpose of high-heeled shoes? Does anyone, first of all, you get your feet terribly cold. It's the most uncomfortable thing in the world. So when you're selling high-heeled shoes, the reason you can sell high-heeled shoes is because you're selling sex. Because when you wear high-heeled shoes, you feel much hotter than when you're wearing flat shoes. That is what you just paid for. And any product in the world falls under this. In Iceland, for example, if we stick to travel, Iceland sells ego. Iceland sells the privilege of being able to say, I'm that kind of traveler who goes to Iceland, bit sporty, bit like, Robert Redford, I'm thinking. Bit like, I'm out there exploring stuff with my backpack in the mountains, there's snow, I'm climbing up, That's what people are supposed to think when you say, I just went to Iceland. Very, very strong. It's all about self-perception. The drive of humans is to go out and be able to be the person that we want to be and communicate that. That's the entire purpose of social media. It's like, oh my God, I'm so cool. Guy jumps out from this, and you're sitting there with your Red Bull, and you're a little bit that guy. It has nothing to do with that. Red Bull is a sugar drink. But now it does, right? Because after so many years of finding their worldview and just tapping into it again and again and again and again, now Red Bull means adventure. I am cooler than everyone else. I have more courage, This is alpha male. Red Bull sells alpha malehood also to women. Yeah, that's this whole new liberation and equality, right? It can be difficult sometimes to see which sex is supposed to take which signal. When we look at that and we've identified what is it that we're selling of these? Are we selling security? If you sell insurance, for example, you sell security. You sell that I've got your back if something goes wrong, and you sell that you can say to your mother that don't worry, I have that covered. when we figured out what it is that we want to say, then we want to say that at the right times. This is getting a bit more down to the practical stuff, right? We want to say it when you're at the right time and when it's something that applies to me. Who gets a little bit agitated or irritated when you get a message from a service that you use and it sells the wrong thing? For example, I just got one from my phone company that says like, with this new data plan, you get, if you sign up for this, you get 10 megabytes free data. Hello, idiot, I'm on a data plan which has free data anyway. Why am I getting this? And actually it didn't make me think, oh, how clever you are, you're doing promotion. It made me think, you're a total idiot and you have no idea what you sold your customers, right? Get your shit in order. So we need to think about what people have done before. Because if I send you something and you are on a plan that didn't have data, or I can just see that, oh, I see you're in Montenegro and you forgot to turn your roaming on. How about this plan where roaming is included? Brilliant, you know? Superman, here's my knight in shining armor, but only because they've gone in and seen my prior behavior. The same thing with, I love mobile, right? I left my last company in order to go in and work with mobile because the mobile offers so many more things we can do with that. We know where you are, we know what time of day it is, and we even know the weather. So I know exactly when to push you something that, are you also in Paris? Wonder what to do when it's raining. I know when I should send you, are you hungry? Do you know that when people are searching for restaurants in Paris or in Budva, they're not searching for the best restaurant, because the best restaurant is relative. They're looking for the best restaurant within 10 minutes walk of me. And that restaurant is not the same depending on time. If it's 11 o'clock in the morning, the best restaurant is probably some sort of breakfast place that has a promenade where I can have a cappuccino and look at people. If it's 8 p.m., I might want a fancier place. If it's 4 o'clock in the morning, it's a greasy kebab shop. There is actually a time of day where a kebab shop is the best restaurant in town. Sad but true. So that we can do if we go in and then we time and we communicate appropriately. This is different on mobile than on web. I won't go into that. But it used to be that we had to be unique and we had to represent quality. Today, being appropriate and being relevant is a more important factor than that. Also, when we want to get people to share, this is a subculture in Japan, these girls, right? It's easy to imagine that they're not going to share my mountain biking experience. That's just not going to happen. It doesn't matter how much Facebook push I put behind that message of my mountain biking. They're not going to share it, these guys. But Facebook actually did a survey, and it can be narrowed down that there's 4 things that people want to share stuff on social media. Has anyone tried, perhaps in their job, to put some out on social media, and it was the intention that people should like it and share it, and perhaps it should go viral, and it didn't? I think we've all done that, right? And often it's because we end up talking about something that we want to say, but not something that makes other people look good. We need to go back to what do they get out of it. So there's 4 things that make people share on social media. The one thing is feeling of achievement. Who may have received a picture on their Facebook or other stream that says, I've completed the marathon? A lot, yeah? Or I've completed some sort of other race, or here am I on the top of this mountain, or some people are even sending every day from I've managed to do my 2 kilometers of running along the block, right? Ooh, congratulations, right? Thanks for sharing that with the world. It's a better place now. But achievement is massive. Pride is really big. Baby pictures? Who sends baby pictures? Yeah, someone has a few of you seen baby pictures on the web? Why is that? There is nothing that instills a sense of pride in us. Then, as Stelly said it, I launched this little thing, right? That is massive. It fills us with pride, and therefore we share it. The other one is being helpful. There's a lot of this stuff being shared, half of it not true, which is like, new virus, don't download this new update, or don't go into this website, or it's getting dangerous to travel into Syria. But all of that, we share that because we want to be seen as a helpful person. And don't forget that when we were looking at these 6 things we could sell before, they appeal to different kind of people. It's not everyone who wants to be the alpha male Red Bull person. A lot of people want to be the really friendly, nurturing, especially among women, right? A lot of people want to be seen to be helpful and kind. I mean, those are key values for us. So sharing something that makes us look helpful is our motivator for that. And then the last, and it complies to all of it, is that I'm sharing something because it's how I want to be seen. It fits my self-perception. So that may be an article about how fashion is evolving, or what's the latest new in Paris, or what kind of new technology is out, or what are the trends on mobile. And that's because this is how I want other people to perceive me. So when we are collating information that we want other people to share, we have to take that step back and say, how can this make someone else look great? And are we sure to hit one of these ways of looking great in? So the last, to round up a few practical tips if you're building a brand from scratch, or you're just about after this conference to run out and start something or join a startup that you can make great. It's a pictures communicate stronger than words. It's old, but it's true. If I had instead written a sentence here that says, our product makes life fun, would that have had an impact? Probably a limited one, right? But you see a picture like that, and we're just genetically engineered to smile when we see other people smile. Emotion is more memorable than fact. If we need to tell a story, we need to evoke emotion. That is the problem for most tech startups. That's the world I come from. Is that it's being communicated by engineers, you know? This one runs X percentage faster than this other little gadget. And the world doesn't care about that, right? Or at least, but not most of the world. We need to communicate the emotion of why should we do that. No science, no marketing speak. This goes for both of us. No explaining in like technical terms how many bytes and bits and what it does. That can be hard if you're a techie. But as a marketing person, it is also not too much bullshit, not too much, we're the most innovative, game-changing, revolutionary product of its kind. Okay, that sounds really fancy. What do you do again? And finally, the most advanced of the storytelling test. Does anyone have a guess what I'm going to do now? The most advanced of all the tests of whether you have managed to communicate a message that have gotten through, that is understandable, is this one. The grandmother test. The grandmother is the ultimate bullshit detector. The grandmother is the only one who will have the courage to go in and say, that's nice, dear. I didn't really get that. So once you've finished with your marketing strategy, tell your story to your grandmother, and if she gets it, you're fine. Otherwise, we need to go back to work. Thank you.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time,
Yes.
and the lunch has begun, so we're going to go right to questions from the audience. Does anyone have a question for Tina?
I'm from Scandinavia, so I know it's scary to ask the first question, but I know there's some brave people out here. Here's one. You. This one? Do you need a microphone? There's one coming right here. Okay.
Hi, hello. So you were talking about 6 elements, or rather 6 things that can be sold. When you build your brand strategy, what would you say? Is it best to focus on one of them, or just follow your brand and see if you actually got a combination of those and then go in that direction? Because it's rather, either go really broad, or is it better to narrow down and just go for what's the core of your business? Or you would be wiser to just encompass everything that your business or brand stands for?
I think you can only pick one. I think that if you want to be relevant to someone, you need to go all in, and otherwise you end up being wishy-washy, right?
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
Oh, are people hungry? It's just me standing between you and lunch. I can understand that's an uncomfortable situation. Should we call it lunch?
Sure.
Okay, we give in. We can have lunch. Enjoy.
Thank you guys so much.